welcome back to The Pulse. I'm Arba Kumsi. Now, the right to life, the right to education, the right to culture, the right to give proper care to your children, the right to liberty, the right to dignity, the right to payment for labor, the right to own property, the right to free speech, in fact, the right to a good living. Those are the issues on the table when the Ghana Youth Human Rights Conference opens in Accra on Monday. It'll be the maiden edition and will assemble speakers such as the majority and the minority leaders of Parliament, Gender Minister Otiko Jaba, Senior Law Lecturer Raymond Atuguba, and a host of others. The conference is on the theme promoting the fundamental human rights, a catalyst for accelerated socio-economic development in a free and just society. Francis Xavier Susu, Global Human Rights Ambassador and also the President of the Youth for Human Rights Africa, is in the studio with us for more on this. Hello and welcome, Francis.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Absolutely.
Since that very controversial issue.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes,
so how have you been keeping? We know that you're not practicing law.
Yes. Well, I've been doing well by God's grace. I mean, we're just moving on, doing other things that we love to do, which is thinking about people, caring about people, particularly with human rights matters. And that is what has engaged my attention since I came out of the temporary active practice of the law.
Okay, all right. That's interesting. So this conference is called the Ghana Youth Human Rights Conference.
That is correct.
Human rights is human rights. So why include youth?
We include youth because this is a specific outreach to the youth of Ghana. We're looking at young people becoming ambassadors of human rights because we believe that the future belongs to the youth. And so if tomorrow we are going to have police officers who will be human rights sensitive, we're going to have nurses who will be human rights sensitive, medical doctors who will be human rights sensitive, military officers, judicial officers, as well as every other person who will be human rights sensitive. It would start from the youth. We need to reach out to the youth. They must understand the issues associated with human rights, what they mean, and how to develop human rights projects, source for funding for them, and be able to run those human rights projects. We believe that the youth plays a very critical role in the entire national life, and that's why we are concentrating on the youth.
So I suppose that a lot of the people who will be participating in this particular conference will be young people.
That is very correct. Even though there is also space for some elderly people, and mostly when they come to mentor, these young people. For example, we have projects that will be coming to speak about how they use those projects to promote human rights, like the Street Children Empowerment Foundation, Child Rights International. We have, I think, Help Law Ghana. We have WILDAF coming, and we have the NCC. So a lot of projects will be coming to show how they actually use those projects in promoting human rights as young people begin to, explore options to promoting human rights, defending human rights, and advocating for human rights.
Okay, all right. Now, since we're talking about human rights, let's dwell a lot more on what human rights is per se. How you're a lawyer to tell us what's the legal definition of human rights? Because you hear people often saying, "Oh, you are abusing my human rights." What exactly is human rights?
Well, when we talk about human rights, we are basically talking about the very fundamental, inalienable entitlement that every individual has as a result of the fact that they are human beings. Once you are a human being, there are some very fundamental things that you are entitled to. For example, freedom of movement, liberty of the person, freedom of speech, right to life, and so on and so forth. These things are so fundamental that regardless of who you are, regardless of your creed, your religion, political affiliation, social status, economic status, you should be entitled to those fundamental entitlements. So these fundamental entitlements are what we call generally as human rights. Now, it is also important for us to understand that these fundamental entitlements over the years have been codified. So we have the Universal Declaration on Human Rights that gives some general standards for human rights. Then when it comes to Africa, we have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which is the Banjul Accord, which actually speaks a lot about human rights within the African context, and taking into consideration African values, family values, and so on and so forth. Then when it comes to the national level, we have our 1992 Constitution, particularly in Chapter 5, that gives a number of rights and a number of entitlements to people. But what is important for us to understand is that no right is completely absolute, and that is why in Article 12, you still have a provision that says that the enjoyment of our rights are subject to the public interest and the protection of rights of other people. So generally, human rights are natural entitlements which are now backed by law or written legislation.
I see, interesting definition there. But since we're talking about the youth, you've been involved in some cases involving youth and human rights. Tell us, how much do the youth or young people of Ghana know about their basic human rights?
Honestly, I would say that a lot of people generally do not know about their fundamental rights. And one of the reasons for that is illiteracy. Now, when you take African population, for example, Africa is made up of 1.2 billion people. The illiteracy rate is about 60%. So it tells you that when you come to the specific countries like Ghana, we don't have the exact figures, but more than 50% of our population is still, living in some form of illiteracy and not having some form of formal education.
But is it just a question of illiteracy? Because I know a few people who are well educated, well informed, and yet they don't know a lot about their own human rights.
So that is where that is what actually makes the case worse. So that you have people who are uneducated, majority of people not educated, who do not know and don't have even the opportunity to read. And even those who are educated, they do not know what amounts to their fundamental human rights. So what it then means is that you have a large chunk of our population who really always hear human rights, human rights, human rights, but do not know what exactly constitutes those human rights, and at what point can you really assert those rights, and by what means and procedures you can actually assert those rights. So it tells you that there is a very general problem when it comes to understanding of human rights. And that is the central role that Youth for Human Rights Africa seeks to play. And
hopefully this conference will probably change that narrative. But let's talk about the conference proper. Who are some of the other speakers? I know we mentioned the majority and the minority leaders, as well as the gender minister who will be participating. Who else will be participating? Well,
like I said, we have the chairman of the NCCE, Mrs. Nkrumah, and she will be speaking. We have Dr. Annan from Shraj, that he will be speaking. We have Professor Kenatefa, he's going to be chairing the plenary session. And when you come to the presentation sessions, we have international ambassadors who are joining the program because, YoHRA is a continental project. So we have Professor Onyari coming from Kenya. We have an ambassador coming from Nigeria. We have the Togo ambassador coming. We have Gabon, Zambia. All of them are coming, and all these people will be speaking at the conference. And quite apart from that, in Ghana, YoHRA has regional ambassadors in all the 10 regions of Ghana. And these people are people who are in these regions and doing specific human rights monitoring, for Youth for Human Rights Africa. All of them will be coming to share their experiences with the work that they do.
Right.
Yeah, one of the recent work they've been doing is collecting data on suspect rights, and this is what we've been doing with
suspects. You mean people who've been arrested?
Arrested on suspicions of having committed some crime. And I want to use the platform to thank the IGP who actually gave us the leeway and the letter of consent that will be able to go around to make this happen. So all these people are coming to the conference, including our university chapters, University of Ghana, Montreal University.
And the conference is taking place next Monday.
Yes, next Monday on
the 11th. All
right,
very quickly, before you go, your final word to those who are watching you and who may want to attend, one sentence to encourage them to come.
Well, one sentence. I think that this is going to be one of the best conferences that you would ever attend. And this is an opportunity for you to learn something that is going to benefit not only you, but your children, your future.
What will be the takeaway?
The takeaway really is the knowledge that you come in to acquire. And let me quickly add that already, in fact, the conference space is already booked. So many our listeners out there who want to join us from the various regions, you may want to log on to www.yohra.org and just, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and just follow the conference. You will enjoy it. Next year, we believe that it will be bigger and better, and many more people can have opportunity to attend. All
right, many thanks. That is Francis Xavier Soso, who's president of the Youth for Human Rights Africa, and they're organizing the Ghana Youth Human Rights Conference 2017. So make a date. Thank you very much for your time.